Hey guys, how you doing? Today I have Kuri with me, and we're gonna go over some raid information. Since raids changed up a lot now, we have all kinds of new mechanics and added to the game, and we're gonna go over everything for you guys so that you can understand how to place higher in the raids and have more fun doing it. Kuri, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, actually. So for anyone who doesn't know, and you two as well, it's Corey. It's just a long O, but it's fine. It's Corey. Got my YouTube channel as well. Just about to put out my first video, as far as breaking down characters and actually having a voice up there. So that's me.
Cool. And I'll throw a link to your channel in the video description.
Good deal.
Yep. So, first off, I wanted to talk about raid basics. So we'll probably, ping pong off each other and talk about our thoughts. The first thing really is probably composition, what you want to try to go for an ideal raid run. So I guess I'll just start it off pretty simple. The goal is to kill the raid boss as fast as you can, while also capping out the overkill bonus. So you can do that with a whole bunch of different team compositions. Corey actually uses bows exclusively. It's his shtick. So he'll probably have different things to weigh in than I will, but yeah, that's going to be the basic fundamentals. High damage, high speed, clear as quickly as possible.
The same.
Yep. So we've actually compiled a few characters together that we recommend for this upcoming raid and for raids period. And then we're also going to get into the specifics on equipment and whatnot. So
Yep.
I guess we'll start with the alchemy. I'll let you take that over, Corey.
Which part was that again?
Just alchemy effects, recommended alchemy effects for raids.
Yeah, I mean, the basics of those is on your... So, not your weapon, but the other stuff that you put on your belts, your boots, stuff like that. You're going to need something with action gauge resistance. These newer raids bring in an effect to where they knock you all the way down at the very bottom. So you're going to try and negate that, so you can be acting way before the boss even gets to you. It boosts survivability as well as increase your time getting in a better score. So then you're going to go into your weapon. You're going to want some type of damage buff. Sometimes you'll go for other things like SP buffs, but whenever you're looking at composition, most of the time you're just looking at damage buffs, whether it's a certain attribute or a special moves percentage, or in my case, I'm having to go with a gender specific one. That's what I rolled this time.
Yeah, and that can work. They're actually a little bit better than if you try to go for like an overall skill damage bonus, as are the elemental damages. So they're worth rolling for. Get that little bit extra oomph. Like if you have an elemental DPS, it's actually a 30% buff instead of the 20% from a non-elemental or skill bonus.
Yeah, and the male versus female is 25. Same thing with humanoid versus monster.
Now, one thing to be a little careful with, we actually learned last raid about this. Isu figured it out, so shout out to him. The damage against weapon-equipped characters, yeah, those don't work on the raid. Because the raid boss doesn't have a weapon equipped.
Oh, okay, so it's not the forte, it's the actual weapon equipped.
Yeah, so he was the guinea pig there. He found that out for us, and shout out to him for that. But he's like, I don't understand why my damage is so low. And then he ran the numbers. He's like, oh, I'm missing exactly the damage this buff is supposed to give me. And then he checked the raid, and the raid bosses don't have anything equipped. So
that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So don't discount the SP roll too. I actually ran that for a while. I had in this raid my first top score, my first place score when I was in first place was from me having an SP roll because it let me cut New Year's Sicily out of the comp entirely because I didn't need the SP.
Really?
And I was just running Supreme Overlord Laharl and just having him use his... I had him going 3 times before anybody else got a turn. So he'd pass over 21 SP.
Did you end the raid with a certain amount of having to use, I guess, New Year's Sicily? Or did you actually just use this buff?
Sadly, I had to use the New Year's Sicily now, so the buff was actually useless now for my current run, but but it can be very useful on certain runs, so I just wanted to, don't discount it. If it's going to give you enough SP to not have to use something specifically for SP, it's going to help your run. So
yeah, I guess it depends on which one you're using. There's 2 of them. You've got the maximum 10 at the beginning of battle, or you can get 5 per turn, depending on which one you roll. So
yeah, I use the 10 at the beginning of the battle because it works the same for me because I'm only going to be doing 2 actions with my DPS anyway.
Makes sense.
Yep. So I guess we'll segue that into some useful characters. I actually built, well, first I'll show my team, and I guess that makes sense. Obviously, I think they're useful if I use them, right? And then we can segue into, that's for later. So, the most important thing for a fast score, and I'm sure Corey would agree with this, is having someone who can break the barriers for you as fast as possible.
Definitely. That's basically what held me back this past raid. Not having a barrier breaker.
Yep. And so I used Ram for that, obviously. And since she's the only character that can do it right now. But next raid we'll actually have Croy. And he's actually better than Ram. And is also a barrier breaker, so...
But if you don't pull him, you can still use Ram. She actually has the opposite attribute for this same raid with barrier breaker.
Yeah, she still works completely fine for this raid, so... I'm personally going to be picking up every barrier breaker as they release. Not everybody can do that, but as someone who's a very sweaty, competitive player, I need to make sure I have complete element coverage.
I'm just going to use regular old units.
So,
or
good?
No, I was going to say, or in this next raid, actually have a unit that can do something as well as just get rid of the first barrier and then use my DPS as the final barrier breaker.
Which is a viable option that a lot of people don't really talk about, probably because, current meta's this monstrosity over here just wreaking havoc. But elemental DPSs, if you match the element of the barrier, that's a very good point. You only really need to shred 1 barrier off them. So, that is definitely an option. For this team composition, I was using, and this is actually, in my opinion, probably the single best character for raids right now, Thunderlord Laharl, because he has an AoE speed buff, and remember how we were talking about fastest clear you can do with the most damage you can? That's kind of his shtick. He does both of those things, because he actually has a speed buff that also gives him plus 500 action gauge. So you can make him do a speed buff and then make him Mega Braveheart your damage dealer. So you get the best of both worlds. Pretty strong.
OP.
Yep. And then because I'm running a Thunderlord comp, the strict part of that is I can't run dual Fortes, so sadly I had to run the Anniversary Sarah, who's a good character. She's a good character.
That's who I had to use.
Yeah, she's the only armor breaker I could fit in here that was actually useful.
Yep, I mean, her abilities aren't that bad. I mean, she does boost damage by 12%. But if you get her to go first with your DPS coming in last, she does give a 40% buff.
Yep.
So there is that That's what I used her for.
Mm-hmm. And now that I have better gear, I would likely do the same thing with her. I would probably have her and Thunderlord both get the action gauge reduction resistance proc, since I have the equipment to do that now. And I'd probably put her in the lead slot, that way she could pass it to the DPS, but at the time, sadly, I had to forgo that buff because I had to get my speed in.
That was
but it didn't
my
matter.
only way of getting in as much DPS as I did with Ram's current 25% resistance to fire.
Yeah, that had to be a little brutal for you since you're using Zeryl.
Yep, S plus fire ability.
And in my opinion, the second best support right now we have for raids, and probably one of Corey's favorite as well, since Bo's a tired Sicily. The SP pass down is just actually nuts.
Especially in raids where you already get an SP buff depending on what HP they're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty noticeable. And then for I have another honorable mention that'll kind of do the same thing later in the discussion, but I guess actually we'll segue over to the other supports I recommend now. And then actually, you know what? Who do you recommend, Corey? How about you throw some supports in you think are pretty good for raids?
Well, you've already covered the bow, so I guess I need to cover the Thunderlord Laharl SP buff. Throwing in Amelia in there is not going to be that bad.
Mm-hmm.
You'd mentioned that earlier. Ally with the highest speed is definitely going to be a big buff if you run her, along with dumping all your SP and your DPS.
Mm-hmm.
As well as... I guess it really depends. You can't really call Diaz a support.
Oh, I got him in my list.
But I mean, he does have Mega Braveheart. He does have speed down. So if you're not running for top dog, you can at least Mega Speed down them and run by them multiple times to get buffs in, and then smack them really hard.
Yeah, he also has that action gauge at start bonus that he gets, which in the extreme high end of things, when we're talking about people like Isu, he gets that starting action gauge. So if you actually have 90 speed on your Diaz, and he resists the action gauge reduction, then he will give himself the plus 150 action gauge, and he'll act on frame 0. Which is, I don't think Isu used Diaz in his run, but that would definitely accomplish the same goal.
Not to mention his E-ability, which boosts speed for other things.
Mm-hmm. And he's got the damage boost, too, for everybody in his, for if you're using a Fist Forte, Gun Forte, or, I think Bow is the last one, right?
Bow. Yep.
I
ran him in my team.
Yep. Another under the radar one, in my opinion, I used him for one of my third place scores, is Bon. He's got such a good kit, and then on top of that, he gives the party speed. Whole party plus 7% speed, which in the higher rankings, speed is basically the only thing that matters. So anywhere you can get it is great.
Yeah, that's another reason why Diaz is really well done, because let's say, you have your action gauge resist right before your Thunderlord. Well, he's going to boost the Thunderlord speed even more by 20% because of his action gauge boosting him to turn 0. So that just makes him even faster.
Yep, exactly. So he'll definitely... passive speed boosts are always nice. That's basically the goal for anything. You want to get that speed stat, because unless you're acting on frame 0, which only one person in all of Global has done so far.
One person?
Yeah, so that speed's important then, because it's the only way you're going to beat the other people, is just doing it faster. Yep. So that's another one of mine. Did you have another one you wanted to mention?
Mine actually go into the new units coming out.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, if you want to shout one of them out, it's going to be relevant to the raid.
I'm actually going to be running Eclair this time. I'm going to try to pull her. She's not half bad. She does an attack and defense buff for humanoid characters, which, let's be honest, monsters are kind of lacking right now, of 14%. On top of that, she's getting a event bonus, another 15%, or at least she should. Still, not confirmed, but she should be getting an extra 15% for base stats. So, total 29% passive buff to attack and defense for the party, as well as another passive buff of 18% damage done by humanoids. Her first skill, which is the AoE, grants her the protection, which isn't too good, but the simple fact that she's also going to break one of the barriers with that, because it's wind-based, puts her over the top for me. I'm going to try to buff her speed and get her action gauge resist, go ahead and break one of those barriers, and just tank if she has to. Really don't expect the boss to get past my first or possibly second turn if I have to.
And to be fair, the tanking can come in handy because she is going to be eating a hit for somebody, which if you're running somebody very squishy, maybe you're using a character that has a lower NEs or they're a lower level, and you just need them on the team to round out everything. I mean, she can block it, right? So
she has probably one of the best defenses in the game right now. Her base is 12 million, and her resistance is only 9 million, but her abilities give her... So, again, she gets the defense buff from her NE1 or NE0. Her NE1 gives her another 20% defense, then her NE5 gives her another 30% resistance buff. So she's going to be able to tank, so if you end up taking 2 turns or more, and you get past that third barrier at the end, you're more than likely going to taking one of those big hits, and she's going to be able to do that with her first skill.
Yeah, so exactly, it has its use other than the barrier break. It's definitely notable, right?
Yeah, and it also, that skill in particular, also buffs her defense even more by 15%. She is a huge tank.
Yeah, so also, yeah, like you were mentioning earlier, she'll have the stat bonus, which will be nice. Get everybody's damage up more, whatnot. Another really good option, especially for the next raid, since we'll have Croy, thank God. So we don't need our barrier breaker holding a spear or being spear forte like how Ram is. So we can actually use Supreme Overlord Laharl for once.
I bet you're looking forward to that.
Yeah, I put a lot of investment into this guy. I gotta level him some more still, but it's kind of a bummer to pull him and then just not be able to use him at all because the first raid that drops, the mandatory character is a spear.
She was definitely mandatory for this raid. There was no way to do it as fast as others without getting her turn 1 barriers gone.
I think the only way that would have been doable, and I don't know if you would have enough overkill, is if you ran a Meliotis DPS, because he has that fire element. And I think the barrier is
up to team comp at that point. That's what your abilities are and what you can get in.
And at that point, you don't even need to worry about the Thunderlord comp, because the Thunderlord comp's gone.
Yeah.
Meliotis' sword, so...
But yeah, I definitely agree. Croy's going to be up there. He also gets like a 5% bonus on top of his 14 regular attack.
An amazing spell pool. He has probably the best supportive spells I've seen on any character.
It's so broken, especially since he has a plus 750% action gauge skill that boosts CRD for all allies.
Yep.
Or is that
I think it's crit chance actually. He has a 3%, I think, for crit.
Let's let's see. So at least on JP right now, his level 200 skill is repeat use prohibited. When you crit, you get 750 action gauge, as well as buffing everyone's CRD by 25%.
Oh yeah, so he doesn't buff any for that right now. And in the global release, he'll just have the 750 action gauge.
Ah, see, that's where JP gets us. We need access to that info.
Yep. But it's still decent. He's mainly going to be just used for lethal flurry though, because of that barrier count down. Just too strong.
Yeah, the AOE barrier count and CRT buff of what was it?
3%.
3%.
Yep. I think it's just to gun equipped allies though. But I mean, if you're running a gun DPS, power to you. DS is actually going to be pretty decent. So
the Killia runners are going to love that CRT buff.
Well, I think it's
crits in.
I think it's gun only. Or no, it's not. It's not.
No,
Never mind. That's his ability.
Yeah.
So that'll be useful. Yeah, not rolling on 4%, getting a little bit more. That'll be nice. If it's not single target, is it? He might just cast it on himself.
Oh, it does say self. It says
yeah.
AoE self.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there goes that. But still, I mean, the barrier down.
The barrier break is the biggest thing that he has. It's going to take down Overlord Prayer's barriers completely. Just done.
Mm-hmm. Then, if you're not running the Thunderlord team comp, another pretty solid support that I have here right now is good old New Year's Laharl. Tired girl Laharl. She just has a very, very well-rounded kit altogether. Mega speed boost, mega armor break, and then her abilities are really strong. She gives SP, increases skill damage dealt, buffs attack and HP. So, she's a pretty solid option too. She also has a unique buffing skill that's on par with... it's actually better than Mega Braveheart. So, she has that too, so...
Which one's this?
A Tired Girl Laharl.
Oh. Dang.
Yeah, she's a really solid option. Croy basically has the exact same spell pool as a Tired Girl Laharl. So.
Very nice. There's quite a few units out there I can't wait to pull. I missed quite a few of the attired units. The only ones I have are Killia and Sarah, as well as the free ones, of course.
Yeah. Then on to DPSs for this next raid. We mentioned it a couple times. You don't really need... If you have Element, you don't need the Barrier Breaker as much. So I have a couple here. And then Corey had one that he wanted to go with. I'll let him say his first, because I'm sure he's excited.
Well, I mean, it's one of the first raids where she gets to really shine. She may not have the same stats as Killia or any of the other, 13,000 or 13 million attacks, but since she does have the Fire Element S+ skill, Raspberry Zeno is actually going to be fairly decent in this raid. She's got a great setup of abilities. She boosts her own damage by 50% when equipped with a bow. She gives all bow base stats plus 15%. And for those doing, 1 or 2 turns, or I should say 2 turns or more, she has an action gauge buff that does everyone in the party by 100. So that's going to technically increase speed. As well as, since you probably won't want to kill off all the side enemies, unfortunately, that is one thing that she's going to have to worry about in this raid. From videos that I've seen, the supporting enemies of Overlord Priere don't have barriers. So your initial AoE that's going to try to clear out her her barriers, it's going to take out those side characters, and her evility is usually plus 30% to attack and or resistance whenever there's more than one enemy. So she's going to lose that if you do end up just taking out both of the supports.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, but if you're running a multiple turn setup, you could probably make up for that and hit the buff cap pretty easy.
Yeah. I mean, 2 turns buff cap's fairly simple now. I mean, Mega Braveheart by itself does 55%. You take into account the fact that based on your comp, you're already up 60 to 70, even higher percent. So 3, 4, 5 buffs, it's fairly simple over 2 turns.
Yeah, so it shouldn't be too bad.
No, not at all.
Then some other very useful DPSs this time around. Our boy Meliotis coming in. He won't work with a Thunderlord comp because, again, Fortes, but he's Fire Element, and he does have his buffs way earlier than he's supposed to, so he stacks up rather nice as a damage dealer right now, the current meta.
He is probably going to be part of the top 10 at some point.
I think it's a good chance, especially... The big thing will just boil down to if anybody invested in him.
I could see Isu going after that character.
I think Isu's probably just going to use Killidia again, fight again.
I can't wait for the complete meta shift.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I don't think it's coming as early as we want it to, though, sadly.
I mean, it at least a meta shift can happen within this raid in particular, just because of the attributes that it's dealt with. Because Killidy, he doesn't have an attribute, so he's not going to get that extra 10%. But he does have all his self buffs that he can do.
Yeah, that's all about to mention. It's even though he won't have that extra damage, he's not having a hard time hitting damage cap right now.
Not at all. He could actually just drop any type of belts and still hit damage cap easily.
Yeah, like mine has I'm at 63.5 million attack right now, and if I land a crit, I have almost. Actually, no, I think I have over 300% critical damage right now, so I kill the boss 3 times over.
Yeah, and with bow, we have lower CRD. I'm sitting at 223 out of a possible max of 225.
Yeah, and that critical damage matters a lot.
Yeah, future comps will help with that, though, so...
And another good one is Diaz, actually. He also has a Fire Element S+. So, good support and good damage dealer. Seems like he'll be pretty decent in this raid.
Funny thing is he's actually who I'm trading off. Not because he wouldn't bring anything to the raid, but as a support, people like Eclair and Croy are going to do a lot better, and at current, the only thing he's providing me is a small speed buff to the next person, as well as 15% damage. So I kind of have to trade him off for someone like Eclair, who's going to do 28%, 26.
Yeah,
29.
because if you're using him as a barrier breaker, then he's not using Mega Braveheart, so he doesn't have as much value, I guess, at that point.
She's buffing by 29% attack and 20% damage, and the only thing he's giving me is 15% damage. So
Yep. But I think that's really it for the characters, and I think that might be it for everything that we wanted to really cover for the raid.
That's the thing. We don't know anything about this next roadmap either. We could get some surprises. We could get Lamington, or not Lamington, King.
Francesco, yeah, that would change things a lot.
That would change things a lot. There's quite a few units that they could just throw out there with the anniversary that we just did not expect.
Yeah, we do have that anniversary coming around the corner, and they really could put anything in it. And I know Hazink mentioned they might even push another anniversary forward in one of his videos, and that would be that'd be some pretty big power creep right there.
Yeah, and
So.
hopefully, depending on how my talks go with some of the, I guess, customer support, I might be able to help, adjust the meta a little bit, giving someone something. But it depends on how the talks go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're all constantly asking them for stuff. Hopefully it works out good.
Yep. And as far as that goes, I don't think there's any other... I guess the only thing we could cover would be the damage calculation and what a good team comp would be. Because whenever it comes to buffing damage, you really have to spread out what your bonuses are. Not just, oh, I'm going to go straight full attack bonus or straight critical bonus. Since everything's multiplicative, you really have to spread it out. You want CRD, you want your attacks bonus, you want your elemental bonus. All those things really build up.
I do, though, however, because of how the damage formula works, and this does confuse a lot of people. I've tried to explain it a couple times. You want everything, obviously. Crit damage up, skill damage up, everything. And if you're hitting that 300% attack cap, then you really should try to min-max that and have as much critical damage and skill damage up as you can, so you don't need to overbuff your attack. It caps at 300%, like everybody knows. In raids, anyway. But if you're not hitting that 300% attack, you need to prioritize that. You want to get that buff up as much as possible, because what the damage formula actually does is it grabs your attack, and it grabs their defense, and it divides one by the other in I mean, I'm simplifying it, there's a lot more it does, but that's the first number that gets added and multiplied by everything else. So the more attack you have, the more the rest of everything else is going to be. And it's very noticeable in a great example is even Fest units versus regular units. The Fest characters have that higher base stats because they get the 20% more stats from their NEs. And their damage output is actually insane, the difference. Or Axe characters. You probably hear a lot of people, if you're in the Discord a lot of people talking about JP and, oh, if anybody can equip an axe, equip an axe. Shit, my Meliotis is walking around right now with an axe on my screen. Even though he's Sword Forte. But it's...
it don't matter.
Yeah, it's... it's an axe because it has the highest attack. So you really need to get that attack value as high as you can. And then it becomes very important to start buffing everything else.
Yeah, on the inverse of that, if you're already at that 300% fairly easily and you're not getting those other things, you're also doing it wrong that way as well. I mean... Yes. Yeah, I would love to go over the damage formula in detail about what sections do what. I think I may do a video soon on that. Maybe.
Yeah, that's a video in itself right there, the damage formula.
100%. 100% it is.
But I guess that's where we'll wrap things up for now. I hope this was informative, and I hope it helps you guys prepare for the next raid. Should be coming pretty soon, since this one ends today. So, the next one should be right around the corner, hopefully.
Yep,
but, yeah, I think that's it. And a big thanks to Corey for coming here and discussing with me all the raid information.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure.
Mm-hmm. And I'll have a link down to his channel in the description. And if you guys want to keep talking about more Disgaea-related content, feel free to continue the conversation down in the comments below, or hit up the public Discord. We're all pretty active over there. We talk all the time. It goes off topic a lot, but it's fun. And we try to always answer any questions, especially for newer players, and explain how everything works over there. So I'll have that down in the description as well. But that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.